Well, he is $50,000 richer after picking up the inaugural win at the Bull Ring at Las Vegas Motor Speedway for the Open Wheel Showdown. It's Langley, British Columbia's Aaron Willison on the Getting Up to Speed podcast, and he's here to talk about his 2023 season, how the weekend went in Nevada, as well as his relationship with car owners Rod and Gord Rendle. That's next after these messages. Dave's Home Supply specializes in cabinets, flooring, and countertops. Visit their website at daveshomesupply.com to look at products, services, financing, and even a free estimate. Are you looking for bookkeeping, payroll, or income tax services? Then check out the folks at For You Simple Bookkeeping. They are a licensed tax preparer throughout the entire United States. For more information, click on the link in the description. Well, joining me on the Dave's Home Supply Getting Up to Speed podcast, coming off of a major victory at the Open Wheel Showdown at the Bull Ring at Las Vegas Motor Speedway, from Langley, British Columbia, Canada, it is Aaron Willison. Aaron, has everything sunk in with what you and your race team managed to achieve in Nevada this past weekend, which is remarkable and definitely a Herculean task?
Well, Ben, honestly, not quite yet. We're still midway through the trip home. We stayed an extra few days in Vegas and just relaxed finally. You know, there's a lot of stress and anxiety and anticipation leading up to an event like that. We put a lot of time and effort into these cars, and to have an event presented to us that of a historical value in the sense that we've never raced for that much money. We've never been able to race against a national field where there's cars from the Midwest and from Florida and obviously up and down the West Coast as well represented. The middle of the country, there's a bunch out from Denver and places like that. So it was a first in a lot of fronts where you really get to run against a lot of people that you see and hear about. But you just really never know how you stack up until you get everyone in one place, right?
Oh, absolutely. And $50,000 going to the winner, obviously you. It really was a continuation, I felt, Saturday, a continuation of the speed that you guys had found, kind of going back to Thursday, but most definitely Friday. Friday really set the tone, really set the bar for how well you guys were going to be running.
Yeah, honestly, Ben, we unloaded Thursday and struggled. We ran our practice night on Thursday, and when we unloaded, I just didn't have the balance that I was looking for, and what I expected of the track and what it was were two different things. So I brought a program that didn't lend itself very well to that place whatsoever, and then we got hung up with some braking issues on Thursday as well, which put us behind a bunch. But we honestly spent most of the weekend making pretty drastic revisions to the car. And the way the format worked, we had very little practice time after Thursday. We had one 8-lap session on Friday before we qualified and a 3-lap warm-up session before the feature on Saturday. So at the end of the night Thursday, I ended up getting up Friday morning and taking the thing all apart and made some pretty serious changes to the suspension package in it and starting almost fresh for our one warm-up session the day on Friday before we qualified. So it was a bit of an uphill battle, but in the end, we found a direction and had incredible speed with the Rendle Brothers tracks from the 14.
Well, and your heat race was extremely exciting with Davey Hamilton Jr., where it came, there was a lap car, and you guys kind of had to part the Red Sea, and you had found a line that you were able to just dedicate to and just keep in front of him.
Yeah, you know, that heat race was incredibly valuable to our whole weekend because the winners went into the pole dash, obviously, and if I would have finished second, it would have lined me up 10th place. So winning that heat race already made me 4 positions into the main event. So getting a good start, getting down the front straight, and trying to get clear of Davey into turn 1 was my main priority. It was a bottom-dominant track, and earlier in the weekend, before it was really rubbered in, it got a lot better in the main event, but earlier in the weekend, if you weren't on the bottom, you were going backwards, and I was honestly fearful of maybe getting scooped by the guy on the inside of the second row and be going down the back straight in 3rd or 4th place. So getting a good start, getting the car to take off, and get down the front straight was really, really important, and I was able to do that and kind of drive down into one a little deeper than Davey and get around them and get down to the bottom and start to protect that track position, right? It ended up being a really exciting race. I wasn't running the cleanest of laps just because I was just fearful of missing the bottom and scratching and clawing for every last thing I had at that point, right? Because I got myself into a position that I don't know if we didn't quite deserve. The car was a lot better at that point, but still not quite where we needed to be. But it made it really exciting though.
Well, and the dash was very exciting as well, and able to win the dash and put yourself on the front row of the 100 lap feature obviously put some pressure on you because it's a long race, and that sometimes there's races you don't want to be leading, especially when it comes to traffic, but also it relieves a lot of pressure because you're not going to have to be dealing with squirrels or running a consolation feature or even having to start super deep.
Yeah, no, it was a really big relief, and again, we worked more on the car and got it really pretty darn good for that dash, and got a really solid direction of where we needed to head the rest of our weekend. But that was valuable. I don't mind leading races. It's a little less temperamental, like sometimes on the dirt tracks where the track will change and you don't know when you're the leader. We don't deal with violent changes in where you need to be on the track in the pavement world so much. So I didn't mind leading, and I'm pretty confident that I could go out there and kind of pick a pace that I knew the car could do for each of the 250 lap stints in the main event, kind of regardless. And then at that point, it's up to somebody else to prove whether they're faster or not. And so I just picked the lap time I knew I could do 50 times over, and that's exactly how I ran the car and how I managed it. And you never really know. So after the first segment was over and we stopped on the front straight for adjustments, my guys let me know that I was handily managing the rest of the field. So it helped reassure me a lot in that situation, right?
Well, and going to, skipping to Saturday night, the feature, it had its share of cautions, which for you emphasize on just good rhythm and also restarts as well. I mean, there was a couple times where there was some guys really charging after you, but you were able to kind of swat them and keep them at bay.
Yeah, that's correct. And there was a lot of restarts, but that's just the nature of it. You have races like this, and the track can be a little one lane, so people are scratching and clawing for everything they can get. And like I said before, I've worked really hard on my starts and restarts, and I'm not super scared of starts and restarts. Like there isn't many people that I think I would have a problem with on a start or a restart. So I was pretty confident with that. And for me, it was an opportunity to just get the car back in clean air and get out of lap traffic. And after a restart, you got 8 laps before you're going to have to deal with lappers again. So sometimes it's a bit of a relief if you get yourself in a bit of a cloud of lap cars. It's a bit of a relief just to get out of that, restart again, get back in line, and go log some more laps, right?
Well, and tell me too, it was right around, I think, lap 70. Jason Blonde was able to start to challenge and did challenge you, and then the yellow came out right when it looked like he had gotten past you.
Right. So what happened there is I was going around the outside of a lap car, and as that happened, somebody else either lost an oil line or flew up. I can't remember exactly what the story is. And there was a big trail of oil from the exit 2 all the way down the back straight and through 3-4. And as I was going around this lap car, I ran right through the oil, and the car jumped sideways, and I bounced off the side of the lapper, and he was able to scoot down the inside and get clear of me. And then the yellow flag came out while that car that had the issue stopped, and about 4 more people spun out in the oil that was on the track. So that kind of, I only got scooped because of the oil, but the yellow flag directly there saved me as well. So it's lucky we got away with that one. It could have been a lot worse. It could have been leaving on a tow truck, right?
Yeah, exactly. Could always. It was basically all hell breaking loose there for a little bit. I think third place got up in the wall, and there's a couple other cars that hit it and got sideways.
By the time the dust settled, there were 6 different cars scattered all over the track in different spots. It was a bit of a circus, but that happens. There's a lot of oil out there, and it happens in a hurry. We're going really fast at that place.
Yeah, yeah, I remember. So for listeners and viewers that don't know, Aaron, longtime part of the NSRA series that's in the Pacific Northwest, and I was announcing a race at Roseburg, my first time ever at a pavement race. And I just remember, like, they had all these classes, and it was just like boom, 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 and like we were in main events, and it was like 7 o'clock. I'm like, oh my gosh, we're gonna get done like at 8. Like, this is nuts. Like, just way the then a modified came out and blew a motor from like turn 1 and laid oil down all the way into turn 3 on a big 3/8 mile. And that took like an hour. So, I learned real quick.
That was right before I feature. I remember watching that going, oh,
yeah.
no.
Yeah, I remember like, oh, man, we are cruising. Like, geez, there was in question if I needed to get a hotel or not. I think I'm in good shape. And then bam. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, definitely.
So those kinds of things happens. And unfortunately, it's what it is. It's the nature of the sport. We're not waiting around on track work, but
sure.
Then when something like that happens, we're waiting around on track work.
Yeah.
Form, right?
In a different form, yes. And it's a really good, I think, exclamation point for you guys with your race season. You had around 18 feature starts, picked up 8 victories. You swept the Neil Montgomery Memorial Weekend at Saratoga on the island, Vancouver Island in BC. Got the job done at Penticton Speedway. Couple wins at Evergreen Speedway at that facility, and then another big payday you won, Redwood Acres in Eureka, California, on the northern coast in mid-May, which was $10,000 to win with the Gunslinger Sprints.
Correct. Yeah, that was a $10,000 night. That was a lot of fun. We have a second time we've gone out there. Beautiful drive in and out. It's a real pain in the back with haulers and trailers and stuff like that to get in and out of there, but beautiful end of town, really enthusiastic group of race fans out there and racers, so it's a lot of fun to go out to that speedway and put on a good show. Like I said, everyone's really enthusiastic about the event. I know they're doing it this next year. The date's going to move a little bit, but there's going to be another $10,000 to win pavement wing sprint car race out at Redwood Acres.
And that's super, super cool because that place has been around for a long time, and it's got a lot of history, and it's great to see that it has a notable event with sprint cars.
Yeah, no, it's awesome, and it's nice because the California pavement sprint car scene, at least on the wing side, kind of is just dried up a little bit, and I don't know exactly why or what or where, but it's nice for California to have a marquee wing pavement sprint car event that's going to pay good money, draw nationally competitive cars, and put on some really good racing for the fans out there.
Well, and something really cool that you guys did as well, went to the Little 500 in Indiana for the month of May.
Yes, sir. Yeah, that was the second time we went out there. We went out last year and this year. And just real bucket list deal, something I've always wanted to do and an event I've wanted to be part of. And it was everything I hoped it would be and more. Like the staff out there that run that event were actually the staff that were hired to come run the Open Wheel Showdown and manage this event. So it runs flawlessly. The build up to the event is just the neatest part, and the people that it attracts, like the cult following of people that have been at Little 500s for 30 and 40 years consecutively and have never missed one and know every stat and everyone starts and like I had a guy in the camping area hold me by the shoulder shaking me going, "You're starting the Little 500, you don't know what this means," right? And it's just to see the passion and enthusiasm in the people for that event, and it being such a really unique event for sprint car racing in general, to run 500 laps and do live pit stops, and there's just so many more engineering challenges to work through aside from making a race car go in a circle, right?
Well, and what's really cool is it's literally the Little Indy 500. I mean, they sing Back Home in Indiana. They have all the pomp and pageantry, and it's, I mean, I watched the broadcast on Flow, and then you got Dave Argerbright on there, who's just such an incredible historian when it comes to that event, and and the significance that it has played in the role as sort of this is your final step pretty much before you would go on to Indy 500 racing, back in the day.
Right. Yeah, that's exactly it. And it's everything right down to we're starting 3 wide, 11 rows of 3. We do Indy 500 qualifying where we take the time of 4 consecutive laps and do a qualifying day and a bump day. And we follow the Indy 500 qualifying procedure to a T, and that is how they form the field. And it's just such an awesome event. The track itself is an absolute animal. There's nothing like it. The pictures and video never do it justice exactly how much banking the place has and how much speed it has for being this tiny little short track. You're absolutely hauling the mail. It's old and it's absolutely pounded, so it's bumpy and a really exposed blacktop, and it's like no other. Like, I've tried to test at some tracks around here with more banking to try and get our heads around what we're doing, and you drive out there and walk into the place and go, oh boy, this is nothing close. Like, around here we got Wenatchee Valley Super Oval on the pavement side that's pretty high banked, quarter mile, and the track out in Anderson makes Wenatchee seem flat.
Sure.
So it's just mind blowing, the track itself, and then to go out there and run 500 laps is like no other, right?
Well, what's really cool too is, for people that don't know, mainly people that listen to this are dirt sprint car fans, but the pavement scene for the Northwest, you mentioned California, they're having things happen. In the Northwest, it's pretty vibrant. There's a lot of options for people, and there's a lot of big races of all the sort of the different groups. I remember talking to Stephen Blakesley about it, for kind of like a prequel to the Open Wheel Showdown, talking about all the different groups and what they do. You have the must-see series, in the Midwest, and you have the Southern shootout group in the Southeast. But the Northwest, you've got all sorts of little pockets, and your native province specifically is pretty healthy when it comes to sprint car racing, and you guys have got a really good group, despite the unfortunate loss of Western Speedway just outside of Victoria in Langford, not Langley, Langford, BC.
Yeah, that's totally true, Ben. And for whatever reason, the Northwest is a real hotbed of pavement sprint car racing, and currently we have 5 different tours or groups or sanctioning bodies, however you want to look at it, that run within the Northwest in all their respective areas, whether that's over inland in Idaho, and then there's the inland sprints up in the Spokane area, the Granite Series based out of Monroe, and then up in BC we have the NST, which is the Northwest Sprint Tour. And the loss of Western Speedway has been absolutely huge for the BC racing community. It's left a big hole up here that we're still searching to fill. Rob Layton and his staff at Saratoga Speedway have done an amazing job with huge infrastructure upgrades at that speedway, with a long-term vision in mind there to keep that place going for years to come. And so that's been absolutely fantastic. So we run NST tours between Penticton and Saratoga, and then there's going to be one more track added to the schedule for 2024, but I'll let them release that when they're ready.
Sure. No, and there's such a bunch of great drivers as well. And you said it in your Victory Lane interview in Las Vegas. I really hope this put, British Columbia racing on the map. And I really think it did, because it seemed like, well, we kind of have these guys that, they run some races around in the area, but how are they going to stack up against, Bobby Santos, Davey Hamilton Jr., the titans kind of pavement sprint car racing, especially in 2023 or the last few years?
Yeah, and that's exactly it, right? Since I've been able to have a little more opportunity the last few years to get out and race against guys like Davey and Bobby Santos a little more, because we kind of end up meeting in the middle in Denver mostly, right? And having raced with those guys and going like, we're every bit as good as these guys are, and you just watch the direction and the tone of the media and some of the broadcasters and stuff like that, and it always gets me that they just really don't take drivers from the Northwest and teams from the Northwest serious.
Mm-hmm.
Like, and then I don't know if that's just because a lot of the media outlets, the broadcasters, are from the East and stuff like that, and that's what it is. You know, they're familiar with their hometown teams and drivers, and when people are coming from the other side of the country that they may not pay that much attention to, it is like, who are these guys? What are they about? They're probably just racing a bunch of hillbillies up there that don't know what they're doing, and oh yay, we won a few races, and that's not the reality of it. The series we have up in BC is incredibly competitive, and I feel like the competition in the Northwest, like the fields are deeper. Like there's a larger group of cars that can win on any given night and any given track than there is a lot of other places that I've seen. Like, take Pink Lady at Meridian, for example. There were 30 cars there. Well, 12 of them could have won. It wasn't like there were 30 cars and 4 guys are up for the... There's an honest 12 guys there that could have won. And when we have War of the Wings at Evergreen Speedway, we're right around 30 cars at those races. And there's 10 to 12 guys that have an honest, legitimate chance of winning that night. Well, so the depth of the field in the Northwest community is huge, and the competition that breeds is huge, right?
Yeah, oh, absolutely. I fully agree with you. And, you know, Evergreen was home of one of the crown jewels, the Rory Price Memorial, which unfortunately isn't around anymore. And, you know, I guess you could say War of the Wings is the big race that they have now. But, yeah, and then Diamond Cup at Meridian, that's a big show. That's not a, you know, small potatoes kind of event.
Yeah, that's exactly it, right? And for years, you know, Rory Price was the biggest spring pavement sprint car race in the country. And you do some digging and stuff like that, and the only pavement sprint car race that paid more was the Little 500. And the only pavement sprint car race that had higher car count was the Little 500. And some years, like in 2017, there was more cars at Rory Price Memorial than there was trying to qualify at the Little 500. And I never felt it got the media attention it deserved nationally, right? So it's nice to just enlighten people to what's actually going on in the Northwest and how competitive and how serious it is up here.
Well, and there's great heritage as well of race teams of the specifically BC, right? Western Speedway produced so many great names, you know, the Montgomerys, and I think Jeff Bird was a pretty good sprint car driver as well back in the day. Randy Price, who obviously his son Robbie Price went and raced with the World of Outlaws last year, and he was in competition in the Open Wheel Showdown. Then you've got the mainlanders like yourself, Jason Kahn and the Larson brothers. I mean, and you know, talk about those guys. You know, Prince George, BC isn't anywhere near Vancouver. I mean, what was it? There was a driver from Kamloops. That's not near. You know, the U.S. Canadian border.
Yeah, no,
it's a hike.
They're a dedicated family. They're a very dedicated family. The Larsons have been doing this a long time, and they are an 11-hour drive from where they are just to get to the border.
Sure.
And I live right at the border, so they're an entire day past me just to go anywhere. And there's no racing north of, like, all the racing in BC, all the racetracks for the most part are based right down along the border. So those guys are, they're getting in their truck and they're logging some miles to go do what they love. And you really got to admire their passion and enthusiasm for what we're doing here.
Yes. And I would also include the Menard and the Almond family as well, a big part of sprint car racing in the Pacific Northwest. And it's great to see the Almond family still racing.
Yeah, with Brad out traveling, and Brad's had some really strong runs with NST. Clicked off a few wins in BC over the last couple of years. So, you know, it's great to see them still traveling and racing. It's great to see Brad and his family actually get going on this trip down to Vegas. Like, this is a big trip for a lot of teams that don't travel very often, and they and don't travel very often. I mean, don't make multi-day drives to go halfway across the country to go racing. So it was awesome to see so many cars from BC go down. We had, I believe, 6 or 7 cars from British Columbia come down to the Open Wheel Showdown. So it was cool to see everyone make that trip. And then Montgomery's like, I can't say enough about Jeff. He's an absolutely outstanding human being, a real good buddy of mine. And when I started racing pavement sprint cars, him and his dad, like he was the man, and he won week in, week out, in dominant fashion. And having to figure out how to raise your game to that level to compete with these guys was really frustrating for a long time. But it teaches you a lot about life and a lot about how to conduct yourself and how to go racing.
No doubt. And Western Speedway, too, home of the Daffodil Cup, which was a crown jewel in the Pacific Northwest.
Yes, it was the longest. I believe it was the longest consecutively running open wheel race in Canada. So, this last year being the last one, which I was very fortunate to be able to win, was the 50th Daffodil Cup. So 50 years consecutively that race ran in Western Speedway.
It's a sad, sad deal. It's no longer. But as we've mentioned, not trying to beat a dead horse, but the future's bright, right? You've got some other venues that have opened up, the Northwest Sprinter to go to, and that's great. That's terrific.
Yeah, that is really terrific. Like we're beat up about Western Speedway. There's a really well-respected group of racers from the Lower Vancouver Island that are working really hard on seeking out a location to replace that track, and they've got a lot of partners on their side. It's just finding the right location and getting the local government on side so you don't just build something to have it shut down a week later by the whining neighbors, right?
Sure.
So there is a lot of effort behind the scenes, and we're still hopeful that one day we will be able to replace that track and have ourselves a new facility on the Lower Vancouver Island. But in the meantime, between Rob Layton at Saratoga Speedway and the Siebert family have purchased Penticton Speedway, and since they purchased it, they've gone in and done a massive remodel, reshaping half the track, new fencing, new grandstands. It's nice to see large-scale capital investment at both of these tracks. So it's positive for the future of oval track racing in British Columbia.
Well, and you can just cross your fingers and hope, right? Langley Speedway, maybe it could make a return and resurrect.
Yeah, no, Langley Speedway is about a half mile from my house. I go walk my dog around there. We race on it tomorrow if we had to. It's sad that it sits there, but again, one of those deals you're dealing with public opinion and whining neighbors and local governments can be tough to sway some days, right?
Yeah. So we'll kind of shift gears here to the Rendle Brothers, right? Rod and Gord, racing for them.
Yep.
It's a pretty prominent team in the Pacific Northwest, and for you, you guys have obviously raced with each other for a long time. How did that whole partnership work with you on driving the race car for them?
So Rod and Gord are people that I got to know through an engine shop that I worked at, and we did a lot of machine work and some engine work for Rod and Gord over the years, back when they were running Will Rock with other drivers in the car, and so I had a relationship with them already. They were at the kind of 2/3 the way through 2017. They were in a transition between drivers, and a bit of a hang up of what they should do. Do we want to keep racing? Do we not? Do we want to do, and they had people driving for them, but they didn't have anybody from BC. They were getting, like, Trevor Moran drove for them a handful of times and stuff like that, but he's traveling back and forth from Boise, Idaho to come drive for a team located out of Victoria. So it just logistically was difficult. So they wanted to have a local driver in the car. What ended up happening is we're going down to Rory Price in 2017, and the driver they had lined up for that weekend wasn't able to make it there until Saturday. So I got in the car on the Friday night and shook it down for them because they put a new motor in it. They wanted somebody to shake it down for them and just make sure they weren't going to have any problems heading into race day the next day. So that really got that relationship started. and I got in the car, and we worked really well together. Just in that short practice day, I did 2 sets in that car for them, and we could kind of tell that we wouldn't have any problems working together right out of the gate. And I went out the next night in my own equipment, was able to win Rory Price in my own equipment, and after that, we began talking the week after about having me drive their car for them full time.
Cool, and it's been nothing but a great partnership ever since.
Yeah, you know what? It's been fantastic. I'll call it less of a partnership, more like family, right? Like Rod and Gord, you know, they take me on as my son, as their son, right? And they treat my family as their family, and I can't thank them enough for it. It's been an absolutely outstanding deal for everyone involved, and they've helped me more than just going racing. They've helped me in my personal life and stuff that's just it's outstanding. They're really great people to get to know, and the more you get to know them, it's been really good for everybody involved, right?
Yes, most definitely. And obviously you've got a good group, a stable of marketing partners and sponsors and other individuals that help you out.
Yeah, we most definitely do. The last couple of years, we've had Brian Baker, a Triax group based out of Vancouver Island, helping us out a lot with getting up and down the road, which has been fantastic. Brian's a really awesome guy and treats us really well. And Jason Frost with the Keg Steakhouse that's in Greater Victoria. So he takes care of everyone really good, keeps us well fed. So if you're ever in the Greater Victoria area, the 2 Keg Steakhouse locations around downtown Victoria, go in there, tell them Aaron Willison sent you, the staff there will treat you really, really well. Jason Frost is a really, really awesome guy. So then Dale Taylor Metalcraft, Custom Metalcraft. Me and him, he traveled with us for years coming down with the races, and me and him work really close together with a lot of the fab work. And a lot of people that look at our car, it's very unique. It's not an off-the-shelf car. It's something that me and Dale designed together, and that car that we race is one that me and Dale built together. So we're really proud of it. We're really proud to bring something kind of different to the track, right? So it's nice to have all those people involved, and my good pals at Philco Machine help me out with all my CNC work, making all the parts we need, and we have a lot of fun going racing.
And for 2024, have you guys started to map out what races you guys would like to do or dedicate running a series, or what's that looking like for next year?
Well, we'll be dedicated to the NST, the Northwest Sprint Tour in BC. Regardless of what that schedule looks like, we're going to be there, and we'll be at all those races and support Rob Layton and everyone involved with that series. As far as extracurricular stuff or stuff leaving town, we're still waiting to see all the schedules and the news releases and what's going to happen. There's most likely going to be another good 2-day show right around the 4th of July out in Denver, Colorado. We'll be heading out to that. We really love going out to Denver. It's a lot of fun out there. So we'll be doing stuff like that. There's always at least one big one at Monroe. So we're just waiting on all the schedules to come out to see what happens. The 2-dayer, that'll be for the 10 grand at Eureka. So we'll be doing all those kinds of things. So it'll be a very similar schedule to the current year. Currently, we have no plans on going back out to the Little 500, but you never know if the right opportunity comes along, right?
No doubt. I agree with you. And if it's anything like the dirt track world with pavement, anything's possible and things can turn at any given moment.
That's exactly it. And like this Open Wheel Showdown, for example, it wasn't released until August, and now look at us. So,
yeah.
So I think it's a very fluid situation, but those are our rough plans for now, and we will be out in full force next year, taking on all of the marquee events throughout the country.
Well, something that was really cool too is I definitely heard it on Friday in your interview. Shark Racing Engines helping you out and everything. Obviously getting a well-accomplished victory down in Vegas, but they had a big win at Skagit with Justin Sanders for the Jim Raper Memorial Super Dirt Cup.
Yeah, you know what, they sure did, and Rod and Gord have been really long-time customers of Mark Houston at Shark Race Engines, and we really love Mark. He just goes above and beyond to to help us out. You know, if we need to leave our equipment at his shop when we go back and forth to the island, he's very, very accommodating. Always takes really good care of us, and the motors run good. And he's willing to work with me on things. If I come to him and go, hey, Mark, what about this or that? Or I would like it to do a little more of this. You know, he's very receptive and wants to work with you on stuff and help make it better. Mark was down at the track all weekend for the Open Wheel Showdown, and he got right in there. When we were in tech at the end of the night, he says, nope, I'm taking care of this. You guys did your job already. Go stand back and have a beer. So he took care of taking the motor apart and taking care of all the stuff to get it pumped for tech and stuff like that. So it's just a class act all around. We've really enjoyed dealing with Mark at Shark Race Engines, and his products run well after winning Dirt Cup and winning Open Wheel Showdown. I know there's a bunch of other wins sprinkled throughout the country that are to his name as well this year.
Yes, definitely a renowned name when it comes to motor builders. As far as you personally or your race team, do you guys have a dedicated team page where folks can kind of keep along and see where you guys are going or how well you guys are doing? Do you have anything like that or website?
Yeah, no, there's 2 team pages you can follow us on. There's Rendle Brothers Racing, which will be everything specific to the 14 car and the Rendle Brothers group. And Aaron Willison Racing, if there's anything that I do that's outside of that car, it'll be on there as well.
Awesome. And
so those are both on Facebook.
And any apparel that folks that can purchase to help the team out?
So we got a full line of apparel, shirts, hats, hoodies, coffee cups, beer cozies, all that stuff. We don't sell online currently. We may get that set up in the next few weeks, so keep an eye on our social media channels, and we'll post if we do. But at any track where we are racing, we will have apparel available. So we take the time to make sure we have nice, high-quality apparel for the race fans to take home and have for a while.
That's super cool. That's awesome. Well, it's been great catching up with you. It's been a long time since we last talked, but I hope the journey leg back is a safe one for you and your family, and congratulations on winning the biggest wing sprint car race in the history of pavement sprint car race, wing sprint car racing. I'm tongue-tied.
All good. Thanks, man. I really appreciate your time today.
This episode is a production of Highside Racing Promotions. Be sure to like the YouTube as well as Facebook page and like these videos. The more likes and the more attention it gets, and we would like to get as much information out to the racing community. Whenever or wherever you're watching these episodes, we hope that you enjoyed them